Welcome everyone to another episode of the Shaman's Way podcast. As always, this episode comes from the teachings of our amazing friend and shaman in residence, Kriket. We hope you're enjoying these podcasts as much as we enjoy making them, and I'd like to take just a moment to ask you if you would please leave us a rating and a comment in iTunes or whichever podcast player you're listening to us from. Giving us a rating and sharing this podcast with others is the biggest way you can tell us that you like our show. Now, without further ado, on with the episode.
Hail and hello, my constant listeners, and hello to my semi-constant listeners, and a very special hello and welcome to my new listeners. I am going to chat today about the giveaway. What is a giveaway? What does that mean from my perspective? I want to, before I talk about the ability of the giveaway, discuss some of the work that we have been doing recently on shadow and specifically our attachment and our attachment styles. It is invaluable to look at our own selves and our relationship to not only what is around us, but also to what fills us, what sustains us. As we move on the path of shadow discovery, we often bump up against aspects of ourself which oftentimes appear to not have a lot of explanation. That irrational behavior or the impulse to do this. So things that we act with little judgment. So as we move into exploring those hidden aspects, those unconscious parts of ourselves, we uncover ourselves. As we uncover ourselves, we uncover truths, hidden or obfuscated, which those truths may illuminate the unexplainable for us. I know that I've talked about extractions before. I believe I've dedicated an entire podcast to it. So if you wish to look at that even further or hear that, then I ask at the end of that or whenever you have time to listen to that one. We have various types of attachments. We have emotional attachments. This is very common and generally the least onerous to move. Emotional attachments, when we're working with somebody in a shamanic perspective, that is formed by allowing someone else's emotional junk or trauma to affect us negatively. This has happened to, if you are an empath, and if you are an empath that is particularly susceptible to feeling other people's emotions or taking them on for yourself, then this may happen for you if you are consoling a friend, or you walk upon a traumatic event, or you are in the room of within a room of traumatic event, or whatever it may be. It is where we are in our emotional attachments helps us to determine what our health is to any particular type of thing or another. What I mean by that is emotional attachments are generally referred to attachments that are outside of ourselves in this context. But we also know that we have emotional attachments to objects in our life, to friends in our life, to many things. We emotionally attachment to the animals that we love and share our space with. There are that aspect to consider when we're moving through and into a giveaway, or how do we do a giveaway? What is a giveaway from that? I asked my students to look at the different attachment styles. I mean, there's many variations of attachment styles, but There is the secure attachment style, an anxious, preoccupied attachment style. So simply put, it's the anxious, preoccupied attachment style is high in anxiety and low in avoidance. Anxious, preoccupied attachments, sometimes their relationships, they thrive on trauma drama, or generally lower in trust. So the dismissive avoidant attachment style is another one of the adult ways of attaching. It's low in anxiety but high in avoidance. And I think there are many of us who can identify people who aren't very anxious but really aren't interested in forming attachments or attachments with other people. So these people generally relate to distance relationships. Sometimes it even stems from a fear of commitment, or, somewhere along the way they laid down their ability to trust. They laid down their ability to have faith in another human being may have been shattered to the point of what they believed was non-repair. There is a fearful avoidant attachment. It's high in anxiety and avoidance. And these people are often drawn in close relationships and also are fearful of them. And again, these are extremes. These are not specifically one thing or another thing. It really is, these are just titles. And what you just do with those titles are important into how you perceive that. I want to know how, these things affect me. So if I hold the words anxious, preoccupied attachment, my body is automatically experiencing anxiety, and I'm not really prone to a lot of anxiety, thankfully. And I'm not really drawn to a preoccupation of attachments or people that I'm attached to, So what does it feel like in my body if I say dismissive avoidant attachment? Can I feel that in my body as we move into our shadow, as we move into exploring our healer self, as we move into exploring the multitude of variations and expressions of humanity? It is invaluable to be able to experience the world from the perspective or even the perceived perspective of a person with whom you're working with whom you're talking to, or even see on the street and are mildly curious about. What is it like to have the ability energetically to feel within another person's wounding or strength even, and not take that on as our own? And I know that I have talked to many people, friends included, who are highly empathic and feel the weight of the world, the sorrow of the world, completely within them. And I ask those that are highly intuitive empaths or physical empaths, do you also experience, and I would love an answer to this, do you also experience when you walk into a room and you feel the heaviness, the weightness of a room, say you're walking into a funeral, can you also experience when you walk into a joyous occasion, in your empathic abilities, are you just as able to pick up on the positive vibrations? Or are you seeking the lower vibrations? Or is your form of empath seeking the lower vibrations? So I'm not certain what that would mean by any stretch, and I'm certainly not making a judgment. I'm simply asking a question. I've never really thought about that before. However, I know that I am far more likely to notice a heavier energy than I am to notice a lighter energy. I can be affected by a lighter energy. How goodness, we've all experienced humans who raise us up for no particular reason, but they're just the vibrations of their self, the smile on their face, the energy that they carry or they walk with. So I am quite curious about that. And when we have these aspects of exploring ourselves, Can we feel that fearful avoidance? So can a soul may really deeply want a relationship, but what if that soul is afraid of the cost of vulnerability or the commitment required? What does that feel like in the body for a person? What does it feel like for you to walk into and feel secure attachment where either yourself or the person around you has healthy boundaries, can maintain the boundaries, and can fully participate in an intimate relationship? Keep in mind, when I speak of relationships, I am not narrowly defining them within the context of partnered relationships. We are in constant relationship with everything, hence the whole wishing to discuss giveaway. And we're in relationship with everything all the time. Relationships are an ever-fluctuating, undulating dance of energy. If we have security in our bones, or if we feel safe within our bones, that gives us, our personal self, the chance to approach relationships with confidence, lower anxiety, maybe even the freedom to communicate effectively. What if we were all so secure in ourselves that we could actually step forward and be upfront about our wants and needs, even when we're faced with difficult and challenging topics? What would it be like if we could feel secure enough to allow emotional and psychological energy to focus on issues that need to be addressed, instead of another path of how can I focus on the faults of others? When we move into the experience of attachments and in the giveaway, it's important to see what kind of giveaways we have. This topic of the giveaway began with an exploration within myself of feeling at home in this body, feeling at home where I live. And I believe I have talked about this before, that when I was a very young child, all the way up until maybe my mid-30s, I was very homesick. Even within the family that I was adopted into, I remember having just a longing to go home. And when I began my journey on the path of this path of being the shaman, the explorer of the other worlds, the person who, I wanted to build relationships with the directions, build relationships with the energies. And there were many times when calling in the north, the place of the ancestors, and what that represents to me personally may be very different to what it represents for you. And I often felt an overwhelming sense of grief when I would call in the north. I believe it was that recognition of the overwhelming sense of grief when I called in the north that allowed me to give away my attachment to feeling at home or feeling homesick. It was around that point in time that I no longer focused on having a home, because it seemed very apparent to me that I would never be at home and I would never find home. And I have traveled quite a bit in the world. I haven't visited 72 countries or 100 countries or anything along that line. One day, perhaps, there is this long off and distant part of me that thinks I will find home, but the vast majority of me is really okay with never having, quote unquote, a place to feel home with. That's part of the ability to move into style and relationship with the outside, and style and relationship with self. accumulating, cultivating, and living with relationship with spirit has been a challenge for me, and yet also very freeing for me. Having the ability to exercise a relationship with my spirits has given me more courage to exercise relationships in the outside world. I believe that the ability to develop a discernment or a discerning eye comes from the ability, or can be arisen from the ability, to discern what spirits are in front of you and what spirits are of goodwill and what spirits are not of goodwill. Because there certainly are differences in the spirit world. Perhaps you've never encountered them, lucky you. And perhaps you have encountered them, and you're sitting here listening to my voice. So apparently you have conquered that part of it. Where am I going with this, and what am I talking about? In relationship to the outside and the inside and the giveaway, I know that there was a Netflix sensational show a bit ago. It became a fad. I can't remember the lady's name. I never watched it. But I found it very interesting because the regular humans in my life, they were talking about does this give me joy? And can I, that seemed to be the tagline, and laughing about it. And I found that very interesting because my perception of does this give me joy is an actual perception. And yet to them, the thought that they could actually have an emotional attachment to an inanimate object was very amusing to them. However, I'm sure if I went into their home and walked around their belongings, I could certainly find things that they had an emotional attachment to, and perhaps could share with them the difference between an emotional attachment between a shirt that you have and an emotional attachment to a blanket that perhaps your grandmother made and she's passed and you'll never get it back again. The shadow side of us in respect to the giveaway, perhaps the shadow side of you is wish to maintain or to keep everything, allowing you to believe that your value and your worth is directly related to that which is amassed around you. You could also, on the other extreme, have a shadow attachment that nothing is going to ever stay in your life. The thought of having so much makes your shadow side want to throw everything away because you already have no value, you already have no worth. The fact that we even look at something like a giveaway or giving something away really is a rich culture's perspective. It is not a poor culture's perspective. It is the affluent who have the ability to feel lighter by owning less. The affluency in accumulation of things has long been a cultivated belief pattern in every culture. The more stature you had, the more wealth you had, etc., etc., etc. Coming back to the North American or the affluent nation's perspective of a giveaway comes from a place that I'm not qualified to speak on, for I don't stand in anyone else's shoes. I only stand in my own shoes. From my own shoes, I can perceive the world around me. However, I'm fully aware that my perceptions are limited by the inability to see within the person that I am necessarily observing. The giveaway ultimately is a very important part of my life. It is an important part of my life because I will not allow, I've worked with my shadow enough to recognize what value I place in attachment, what value I place in attaching to something or to someone. The ability to receive is just as important as the ability to give away. Give away does not necessarily reflect just animate objects in one's life. The ability to give away relationships that cannot grow with you in them, the ability to give away relationships that serve no one, the ability to give away a preconceived notion of what should or should not be a part of you. We have all many viewpoints on what a giveaway is. We have viewpoints on what our relationships to the outside world look like. We all have viewpoints on what the relationship to the self looks like. It is my relationship and cultivation of the relationship between the selves, the outside and the inside, that determines my ability to give away. The other aspect of the giveaway that I look at coming from an affluent society is, what do those who love me do with what I accumulate? We have had, my children's father died a year ago, and my children are still trying to deal with the accumulation of very nice and very expensive objects he acquired in his very short life. He died at the age of 52. And I see the struggle and the strain that it puts on loved ones to determine what to do or what not to do with what was held as important. And that has forced me, in a very good way, to reflect upon what is it that I really need to survive in this world. Do I really need this? Do I really need that? And I've also made very strong decisions as to what cannot be passed down and what will not be given away in my life when I pass. My drum, I believe, must come with me to the afterworld. My old man rattle must come with me to the afterworld. There are various things that I believe must come with me to the afterworld. Not that I can see them manifesting specifically as they were in this world or that world, but I believe that some of my belongings perhaps have a particular energy that is enshrined or ensouled or entombed within myself, that to give someone else the opportunity to own it or to wield it may not necessarily end in a good way. I think of the various sacred objects that are in museums or private collections that have not necessarily given themselves over very well to being owned by another. There are power in sacred objects, and determining what is sacred to me and what will impact me for however many years I have left of my life, or days or months. That what is it that gives me joy is that which fills me with this. A gentle sigh, that gentle relationship, that positive. There are also belongings that I have which instill in me the warrior. So there are several knives and one sword that will never leave my side, simply because they are mandatory parts of me. The giveaway, from my perspective, is cathartic, even chthonic. It is a catalyst, and it is the underpinning of myself. I wish to be a good steward on this earth. I wish to, the saying in regard to, I wish to live simply that others may simply live. Whether that is part of your reality or not part of your reality, it really is irrelevant to me, because I'm not living in your world, I'm not walking in your shoes, and vice versa. The giveaway is a very important marking of the soul. Whether you are giving away relationship, even if it's an intimate relationship and you can no longer maintain the health of that relationship, you give it away, you give it over to whatever spirits are going to disseminate it or to break it apart. We give away the things that we are attached to. We give away that which is no longer necessary for us. We give away sacred objects when we no longer feel that they can be utilized in the proper way. Sometimes I have a give away from, or a give to me. If I find a sacred object that I need to rescue in an auction or in a secondhand store, I am going to purchase it, I'm going to clean it, and then I'm going to look for the proper owner. Being a foster parent for objects and for beloved spiritual items from one human to another human, I have always found to be a very beautiful soul offering. And I have been a foster parent for spiritual objects for many, many years, sometimes keeping them for many years until I meet the person that they are specifically supposed to go to. Meanwhile, having the object in my hands, never really forming a relationship with it, but knowing that it is not mine yet to give away. So there is that element also of discernment within attachment. Can I discern if I am giving something away out of anger? Do I want that person to receive something with an angry emotion? Even that giveaway can be words. That giveaway can be, sometimes you give away your words and they touch a person in the warmest way. They touch a person in the deepest way. Other times we give away our words and they form forever wounds, forever sorrows, forever whatever it is. And that is a part of what we do as well. But that's a side aspect of the giveaway. My focus primarily when we speak about the giveaway is the giveaway within the relationship to self, within the relationship to what it is that fulfills me. Coming back to the place of attachment and various attachment styles, I think that it can be invaluable for us to look at how we attach. Do we have a secure attachment to something over here? Do we have a disassociative attachment to something over there? And can we view ourselves through those various lights? Can we actually see ourselves in ways other than what we thought we could? And I think you're listening to this and you're this far along on the journey with me in podcasts because you are willing and curious to look at yourself. You are willing and curious enough to see who you are. That fills me with hope. That fills me with absolute sense of purpose in my own words. The giveaway is such an important part of my life. I love to gather sacred objects, books, clothing, things that I have kept over the years, and having the ability to give it into the place where people can come and choose what they wish or take what is called to them and go from that perspective. It also lightens my load when I look around and I see my belongings shrinking and shrinking. It does give me a certain sense of lightness of being. And I believe that is in direct correlation to some of the heaviness of the beings that I have met along the way. Perhaps it is myself in the giveaway attempting to seek balance and strength for the effects of what I take in and what I take on. Perhaps you experience the same thing. Perhaps your experience with owning is your relationship to the sacred. Perhaps your relationship with not owning is your relationship to the sacred. Simply because this is an avenue that I choose does not mean this is an avenue that you choose. However, you have listened to my words and listened to my thoughts, and I'm grateful for that. If I have challenged some of your beliefs, or if I have challenged how you can view your relationship to the outside and your relationship to the inside, then we are good. We are in good place. We are in good meaning. If we are able to view that relationship that we have to all aspects, what does that mean and what does that give to us? Can we be greater or more inspiring if we are less inclined to build emotional relationships to everything in our life? Or can we be freer and less encumbered if we choose very specifically what gives us commitment, yes, contentment, and perhaps even allows us to see who we are in the reflection of how others perceive us or what they receive from us? Perhaps our giveaway is our mind. Perhaps our giveaway is poetry. Perhaps our giveaway is song. Perhaps our giveaway is prophetic dreams. I don't know what your giveaway is. Perhaps you have giveaway ceremonies like I have done over the years. I love giveaway ceremonies. They're very delicious for me. I love to see, if I can. Often I try to stay away from, but every once in a while I peek over my shoulder. I'm often quite interested to see what someone chooses to take for their very own and what they choose to be called to, or what calls them, I suppose one could look at. It does give my heart joy to see a reflection of myself being honored in the ability to receive gifts from another person, no strings attached. The giveaway is also for me a way of balancing my life. I receive so many gifts, internal and external, that I believe it is part of my journey to express and move that forward or pay that forward with other people. This is my opportunity to reconnect and enliven ourselves. I think that I have expressed myself and my relationship to the giveaway in a multitude of ways, and I may have even repeated a couple of ideas here and there, and I thank you for giving me your kind attention and your lovely ears as I move through my meandering thoughts on giveaway. And keep in mind, it all began from contemplating my adoption, the lack of family information that one can have in experiencing adoption. It came from my ability to see how I attach or don't attach to various things. It came away from my ability to see if my forms of attachment drove from shadow specifically or drove from love, and the opportunity to release things without attachment, to release things with true honesty in no preconceived expectation of where something goes once it's given away and what becomes of it once it's given away. Until next time, I encourage you to pop over to shamansway.net if you haven't already and look at the drum tracks that are there and some of the other writings that are there and some of the guided meditations and other things. One never knows what one can put within their toolkit. Until next time, this is Kriket.
Thank you again for joining us here on the Shaman's Way podcast. If you have any questions, would like to make a request for a future episode, or if you're looking for other shamanic resources, including free drumming tracks, please visit us at shamansway.net. Until the next episode, be well, everyone.